Good morning. Welcome into Boston has entered the chat. It's Thursday, June 26th, live inside the Salem 5 studios here in Watertown. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson, rocking with you guys for the next hour. Right here, the show where we take what you guys are talking about in your group chats, DMing each other on Instagram, the sound bites, the highlights, the craziness, bring it all right here. We got a packed show for you guys. We'll talk with the Celtics stayed at 28th overall. Who? Hugo Gonzalez, that's who they took in the first round last night. We'll also preview the Bruins draft as they're 24 hours away from that going down with the 7th overall pick. Talk Red Sox, talk trending, and we got your voicemails coming up as well. Case, how are we doing today on this Thursday?
We are solid. We're doing really good. And more importantly, as you just mentioned, we got the NHL draft getting ready to go down.
Right around the corner.
I love it. I love this time of the year because you go straight from the draft into the NHL frenzy, and we are on our phones turning into FBI agents from 9 a.m. until everything opens up at noon. So we're solid.
Draft going down. We know July 1st at noon. What happens? A lot of people get paid, a lot of money, a lot of years, and a lot of teams make moves to improve the roster. But let's start with the NBA. Celtics with the 28th overall pick, sticked and picked. They took Hugo Gonzalez, a 19-year-old point guard, 6'6", 205 pounds, out of Spain. This is a guy that a lot of people, again, the reaction was, who? Hugo Gonzalez? I don't pay attention to the European circuit like that. Now, I'll watch this guy's highlights, watch his tape, and see what jumps out. This is something where fans were waiting to see. Do they trade up? There were still the rumors up until the 11th hour. Is Jaylen Brown or Derek White, do they become a lottery pick? Potentially, do they become a top 2 pick? When Cooper Flagg of Maine, shout out to him, going to the Mavericks. It went Dylan Harper of Rutgers going to the Spurs, and everything followed suit. This was a draft pick that left a lot of people scratching their heads. Okay, how does he benefit us? That's also the reality of the NBA draft, where when you get outside of the lottery, and really outside of the top 8, top 10, it's going to be projects, not immediate impact players. His tape is great, awesome footwork, so skilled, so fundamentally sound, which you get with Europe. Really good point guard in the pick and roll. Has a high motor, doesn't have a shot, but this is someone that can contribute to the Celtics eventually. When? I'm not sure, but eventually can.
Yeah, outside of the who, I think a big thing to kind of hone in on is the comparison between college basketball and anyone that's going to be playing in a European league. And I mentioned this earlier, funny enough, I asked on Cable about this on Hold My Banner, what the polishing looks like on a collegiate player trying to take the next step to be NBA ready versus a player over in Europe. And the difference, especially once you get out of those lottery picks, as you mentioned, especially once you get out of that top 10, the difference on the polishing, you almost want to have more faith in the development of a guy from a European team because he's playing against guys that are older. He's playing against guys with previous experience in the NBA or bigger league opportunities in competition. So that's should bring Celtics fans' mind a little bit at ease. Now, you hear 19 years old, you hear that he's not the strongest three-point shooter. Three-point shooting is the identity of the Boston Celtics, or at least a big facet of it. So these are things that make you a little bit weary as to the direction of this team. We're calling it a retool, but more importantly, you're going to hope that him playing against guys that are older and with that experience probably sharpen the toolbox a bit more. Outside of that, I'm a big fan of the fact that they talked about his composure. They talked about his ability to kind of see and set up certain plays. With that, you're talking about a guy that could potentially slow the game down. And that almost feels opposite of what we saw a number of NBA teams do this previous season. Half of the hype behind the Pacers was their fact to push the pace, to make their opponents have to rally up to what the tempo that they set. But if you can slow things down and do so with a big basketball IQ, then you're forcing the opponent into your game in a different way. So I feel like he can bring something in terms of a different dynamic, a little bit of versatility. Maybe they're trying to break out of the whole, if we're a strong three-pointer team, we're automatically a championship team, and kind of redirect this ship a little bit.
He's also someone that, how does it fall who he's on the floor with when he's on the NBA level, right?
True.
If it's him in a backcourt with Peyton Pritchard and Baylor Shireman's that other shooter on the floor, those guys complement them. Who else is on the floor? Is it Neemias Queta, who continues to take a leap? Because in the pick and roll, and you put him with a rim runner, and then you space him out with shooters, he can have a high effect there. The shot may not be there, but watching him, like the notes I take on him, smooth like butter footwork and handles. And when you watch it all tied together, his feet, his hips, his vision, and the ball, and all his movement, it all moves as one. And that's something that's very rare at 19 years old. And that's someone you bring in, you don't have to worry about that. Now, how does he do with the physical play and the uptick, the athleticism, which is a difference in the NBA? But when a defender's on his hips, he understands how to put them in conflict and how to take advantage of that. When he's running on the pick and roll, he has a vision and knows how to attack the basket and get downhill really well. Now, when he gets thrown off his spot, when his lane is consumed, when there's physical play coming back at him as a defender, that can throw him off. But he's just 19. He's still raw by accounts of an NBA standard, and he's still growing in that facet. How he fits on the floor when he is NBA ready, who is he on the floor with, that's also a vision they have. But I like that you bring up, too, that we saw, and it's a copycat league in a way, where the Pacers change, where it's team basketball, and that's what you get in Europe. And they showed that could take you to the finals. Now, the Thunder did win, but that's having 5 ball handlers on the floor, people that can shoot, people that can defend, and people that know how to play in the full and the half court especially. That's what SGA does. Bringing in a guy like Hugo Gonzalez, that's a complementary piece. It is a need that they have. They have all the shooters in the world. They can very well run it back with the Sam Hauser. They could keep a George Niang, who they just traded for. They could keep an Anthony Simons, again, who they just traded for. A lot of shooters. You need ball handlers. You need guys that can attack the rim and really, really take advantage of defenses in the pick and roll. And that's something he eventually can become. When? I'm not sure. But this could also be the season, Casey, where we see him at the NBA sooner than he actually would be, with Tatum out, with Jaylen Brown coming off that partially torn meniscus, with this team in a reset, and we'll see if other pieces are shipped off. You give him minutes now in a year where it's not championship or bust. It is reset, understand the new CBA and second apron, still contend for a playoff spot, get in, but also develop.
100%, because the other thing, another theme that revolved around the championship that we just witnessed is a conversation being how deep is your bench and where are your contributors going to come in if so-and-so is held off and so-and-so is held off and so-and-so is held off. And it's not always the big name guy that you know about. So bringing him here sooner rather than later, allowing him to get those reps in the NBA, or at least be within your camp developing and like learning your system, learning what you require out of your competitive players, that's going to help him that much more, because something else that came up was his time and how much he was playing over in Europe. So if you can get him a couple extra minutes in what is about to be his future, that's going to be more effective. And I'd be remiss not to remind everyone what I stand by. It doesn't always come down to the big name. We don't know what other moves are in the tank for the Boston Celtics. So this is a kid who can probably have more potential and carry more weight within the time frame that the Boston Celtics are retooling this team, and it can look a little bit more hopeful once we learn more about him.
Here's from Brad Stevens, head of everything for the Celtics and this rebuild. Here's him talking about Hugo Gonzalez last night after the first round of the draft.
Just a big fan of how he plays. He's tough. He's hard playing. He cuts. He goes after the ball. He competes. Like, he's got all the intangibles of a winning basketball player. And there's things he can get better at, just like everybody else at that age. But competitiveness is not, it's at a high level.
Competitiveness, that's from the de facto general manager, the president of basketball ops, Brad Stevens, for the Boston Celtics. High motor, competitive. That's everything that Joe Mazzulla wants. So there may not be a mention of shooting, but that's a guy that Brad Stevens is a big fan of. Obviously, from his coaching experience at the college game, the NBA level as well. Now tapping into the European basketball circuit as well to add talent. This is a guy that I think, when we see a Jordan Walsh take a step up this upcoming season, who's been, marinating, maturating with Maine, and also been on the Celtics bench in playoff runs. Raw athlete, but really good and can be a good defender. He steps up, he plays some more minutes. Hugo Gonzalez develops in Maine. They just hired a new head coach, Phil Presley, or more have elevated him into that role to develop those guys to get him ready for the NBA. That is, get him in the Celtics system, let him grow, let him understand it. We could see him at the NBA, again, like any prospect, Casey, it's a patience play. You could see him in the NBA, he may get exposed, you may not like what you see for the 5, 10, 12 minutes he's on the floor. He's 19, this is a long-term play.
And it says long-term play in a number of ways because, again, there's a financial crippling to the Boston Celtics situation right now. After the trade earlier this week with Drew Holiday. When that took place, for some reason, I'm like, okay, this doesn't scream that we're blowing up the roster. This screams that we're going to create time and space to figure out what we actually have in the prospect tank, because they either have to ship off or package a few other pieces to make it make sense. But everything comes down to just kind of alleviating the financial situation and not trying to go too crazy. You've got big names on this roster. If you're going to stand by a Jaylen Brown, if you're just waiting for the return of Jason Tatum, then all you need is supporting cast around that for the most part and make it make sense. defense. Don't have everyone turn into the shooter, and then you expose yourself in different facets of the game. And this is kind of where this move makes sense. I've talked about the fact that once Porzingis got traded, I thought that they were going to try to find their big guy in the draft. 32 is not that far from 28, so we still have time to go. But regardless, I think that it's saying that they're just like smoothly trying to restructure this team, because we can't forget that you've got 2 all-star caliber players on this roster that speak for themselves. It's just timing, and we might have to let 1 year go.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, again, if he can get to the NBA level, you'll take the timing. Twitter was also reacting, of course, to the draft pick. Let's get to the tweets we saw from fans. Some of the congratulations for Hugo Gonzalez. Sicily boys, TC, yes, that's a real Twitter handle. Some Italian support for the Spaniard.
Italian loyalty.
Yeah, right, the European loyalty. Highlight reel is low-key nasty, and Brad we trust. Exactly. That's where Brad Stevens makes a pick, he knows. Then from fans' eye view, Celtics fans, Brad, the roster talent is quickly diminishing. We need to capitalize on our draft picks. Work your magic. Brad, how about an international 19-year-old who in 3 pro seasons played an average of 9 minutes per game and shoots 27% from deep? Shaking my head. Brad, you trust. Brad, you trust. Maybe you don't need shooters. You have plenty of them. You need ball handlers. This one from Wancho. You all are taking a great player, Of all the draft, he is the kid who played the most complicated competition of all. ACB, second best national league in the world, and EuroLeague. The kid is going to be really good, man. Yeah, playing at Real Madrid, playing in the EuroLeague, and at that level of play. Again, he's just 19, still raw. You're playing against grown men that were in the NBA previously, are NBA prospects themselves, or have made a career out of playing in the EuroLeague. Just because it's in Europe, just because it's not college, doesn't mean that it's any less of a high level of competition. Just a different style of play and development. And again, I mean, look at the MVPs we've all seen. They've all been non-American players. It's been Canada, it's been Greece, it's been Serbia, go on and so forth. It's about to be France with Wemby taking a step forward. This is another thing where you have to add as an NBA team to win a Larry Bryant trophy. You need different styles of basketball on your roster. Hey, we haven't even mentioned it. We got to talk about Maine's Cooper Flagg.
Yes.
#1 overall pick, expected. I died it was around 4:30 that Duke put out a tweet congratulating Cooper Flagg. But everyone knew, and you know what? They knew for the engagement, the ridiculousness of saying that.
Mental.
They understood the assignment. They understood the assignment. But Cooper Flagg, going #1 overall, Maine resident, played 1 year at Duke, was a college basketball player of the year, is fantastic. He now joins Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving with the Dallas Mavericks. Really good trio to have. And for a guy that knows how to affect the game with or without the ball in his hands on both ends of the floor, defensively, who better to learn from than from Anthony Davis? Offensively, in a creative and the vision and everything, who better to learn from than Kyrie Irving? And also, Cooper Flagg's knock is his handles. Yeah, I want him attached to the hip to Kyrie Irving. Whatever he does, if he can be 50% of what Kyrie is with his handles, he would be a phenomenal, complete player.
Yeah, and a lot of people have spoken to the fact that he can be so absorbent. He can take things in, he can soak it in, and he can find ways to apply it. You talk about him being coachable at one point as well, and that's going to just speak to how effective he's going to be, jumping right into the NBA. Loving the New England love, but also John Fanta mention on Hold My Banner the fact that this is somebody who's still gone under the radar in some aspects, and like he went to a camp when Cooper Flagg was much younger and saw him just turning the heads of people in comparison to having one of LeBron James's sons there. So that just speaks to the fact that I love that he's got this cool, calm, collected demeanor about him. And usually when you see the tale of two personalities, somebody who's not trying to speak and scream for a lot of attention off of their niche, off of their game, off of what they do so well, and now professionally they dial it up professionally, and you just see a completely different beast out of them. So
he's got an edge to him, and he's got it's I call it audacity. It's not just confidence.
I love that you say that.
Maybe it deters towards a little ego and arrogance, but like he's gonna walk in and he thinks he's the best player on Dallas, and he knows what he does on both ends of the floor. He knows how hard he plays, and I think it's a buy-in of I'm the best player, but he doesn't think that entitles him to anything. He earns that, and he has earned that to this point. And that's also, we saw Con Knipple, we saw Malawach also both go lottery picks. And Cooper Flagg was the best player on Duke. And he was the guy that John Shire, the head coach of Duke, went up to him, knowing the aspirations of that team, knowing all the lottery picks they have, all the NBA talent. He goes, you need to do more. Your teammates need more from you. And he said, all right, fine. I'll put my foot on the gas pedal and go ahead with that. I'm excited to see Cooper Flagg in Dallas, what he does. I'm happy for the Dallas Maverick fans.
Yeah.
Not happy for Nico Harrison. I'm not happy for the Dumonts. I'm
Make sure
happy
you
for the
clarify.
Maverick fans. You lose Luka, you deserve this. We'll take a break on Boston's End of the Chat. When we're back, though, we'll get to the voicemail, 617-790-0928. Leave us a voicemail during the break. And make sure always to get the latest up-to-date live Boston sports headlines. Tune in to Boston's End of the Chat every day, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. That's Boston is End of the Chat every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and catch every episode on YouTube as well. Welcome back in to Boston has entered the chat. We're going to get to the voicemails in just a moment. Make sure you guys can leave us a voicemail. 617-790-0928. Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, anything.
things.
We want some life advice. We were just talking tailoring during the break. You know, how do you guys like your suits, or how do you guys like your pants and dresses? You know, altered, let us know. Any recommendations? We'll take it to. I got the best seamstress in the world in Beverly, though. So let's get to the voicemail line right now. Remember, 617-790-0928. Let's start with this. Anonymous Celtics fan called in his reaction to the Hugo Gonzalez draft pick.
Hugo Gonzalez? Hugo Gonzalez. Stay up all night, wait for the Celtics pick. That's what they go with. Who? Who? Is he even ever going to play basketball for him? Rebuild this. Everyone traded away. Rebuild that. Tax. Hugo Gonzalez. The NBA sucks.
I get it.
This one.
This is a polarizing offseason. You won a ring. You came up short. Tatum tore his Achilles. Drew and Kristaps Porzingis are gone. Anthony Simons, great return. People knocked the returns. You had to get the money off the books. All of this swirling about Jaylen Brown, Derek White, if they're going to be with the team. You just saw OKC win. Everything's changing. So you want with this draft pick to be someone that can play for the Celtics and be in the NBA. The NBA is not like the NFL draft. The NFL, you could go into the fourth round and get an immediate impact starter. Level of play different, but you could go into the fourth round. I'm talking 120 picks. For the NBA, once you get past pick 12, you're looking at prospects, developmental pieces. So I get it, but I do like the pick.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how many times he had to say the name, because I feel like all of us were like, if we say it enough times, maybe a familiarity will pop off with it. Like, maybe I heard this guy's name before. And let's not shy away from the fact, I almost sounded very foreign there for a second. Let's not shy away from the fact that this was a name that circulated pretty popular a couple months ago, and it just got a little silent around it. But there is a big difference when the hype starts coming in hot for college basketball, especially rolling off of March Madness. So I think it's just one of those things where maybe the lead got buried a little bit here, but kind of another vibe I get from this is like, as you just mentioned, it's a polarizing offseason. I think you look for a level of comfort in the draft pick, which means familiarity or somebody that you can speak to or some grain of skill that you could be like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. You got to dig a little deeper here, but the potential is there. The question mark is, when does he come into the Boston Celtics system? When do they bring him over to see him start getting some numbers and some minutes within this system? I know you said Maine, so that's what the time of, and the timeline that we have to figure out from there.
At one point, he was seen as a top 5 pick, but then his minutes just never came through. And that is something before the EuroLeague season starts. So when you have that top 5 pick, but then you're not playing, that's a red flag a lot of teams see. And they see, okay, he's not ready. Top 5 pick again. And we saw how it went for the picks in this draft, where it was Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey ended up going high. Malawach went as well. There were a lot of guys, boom, immediate impact. VJ Edgecombe could be a project for the 76ers in a way, but he could play at least as a defender right away. When you're not playing, it's the same thing with college basketball. If you're not playing in college, there's a reason. Because if you can play in the NBA, you are a starter, you're the best team on a college team. I think that's what got a lot of evaluators, a lot of teams to step back. Another voicemail. Oh, familiar name. This is one from our guy, Ante Campbell, who hosts Hold My Banner. Leaving us a voicemail. I'm guessing it's about the Hugo Gonzalez draft pick.
Good morning, George and Casey. It's Ante. Look, I got to call in just because I'm hearing from everybody on the show complaining about this Hugo Gonzalez kid, saying Brad isn't doing this, Brad ain't doing that. I'm tired of hearing all of that. Look, if you do your research, which I've done, this kid can play, bro. He's ready to go. He'll be a good contributor for this team. He's a Celtics kind of guy. 2 years from now, people are going to be looking up and they're going to be thanking Brad for making this pick.
The other side of it.
Right.
And I agree with Ante there. It's a draft pick when you go, like I did, who? And then you look into him, you do the research, you watch a tape. This is a guy that, like, you'll see a lot of highlight reels start out with a three-point shot. That's not his game. He does not have a natural jump shot at all. But what he brings with his footwork, the ball handling skills, I said it before, the vision, everything's tied together. He moves so fluidly on offense with the ball in his hands and understands where to be with the ball not in his hands as well. Is a good screener, great in the pick and roll. You pair him up with a lob threat, like could be a Neemias Queta, a Jaylen Brown on the floor as well. We'll see what else they do to address the lack of bigs on the current roster as well, with Horford and Cornette being free agents. But you pair him up with the right structure around him. This is a guy that he can be the straw that stirs the drink offensively, especially in a half-court setting.
Yeah, if Fonte's saying continue to keep an eye on this guy, I'm going to trust that process because he's also the one that pointed out, again, the polishing between college basketball players and guys that get those minutes overseas. And I know we're talking about a lack of minutes, but still, you're being trusted with your development against guys that have bigger experience than you. And you're also talking about a high-character guy. That's something else that's come up a lot as well. So when you're heading in a different direction, you need somebody that has that head on their shoulders that you can trust is going to take your coaching direction, that has the potential to develop sooner rather than later. And I think that's what we're looking at here.
I was laughing a little at the ESPN coverage. Like, I think Jay Billis was awesome on it. Bob Myers was great. But it was like the picks were made and everything was like not a lot of basketball skill set or team fit in the talk.
Was it?
But they kept bringing up like works hard, high character, works hard, high character. It's like, all right, what's a shot? What do they need to improve on? Just you say that, and no, you're right. But that's what with them. I mean, Brad Stevens says it. You assume that comes with a lot of these guys. Like, that's the stuff that goes without being said in a way.
Well, you maybe can assume because Ace Bailey's stock started dropping tremendously. And when we asked around about it, it was because of some characteristic issues.
Yeah, trusting the wrong people. No, but and to that point, what I was going to say is that goes without being said. And if you have to say otherwise, that's when you mention it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what
you're saying. It's like, yeah, it's a good person. I don't have to go and describing something like, oh, Casey, she's good stuff. Like,
if 80% is good, then you don't have to continue to try to create that contrast. I'm with you on that.
I was just watching. I just wanted more hoops talk. Let's get to the next line. This one's Rick from Hyannis leaving us a voicemail. Here's Rick.
Yes, my name is Rick. I live in Hyannis. I just turned your show on for the very first time. I'm actually out on medical leave, so this was very refreshing. Love you guys so far. You get to the point, you're calm, you relax, you explain everything well. There's no drama, no yelling, no bickering, like some other stations that we both know. So thank you very much for brightening up my day, and I'll be a regular caller, I think, going forward. I just don't have anything to say right now. So thank you very much.
Rick, appreciate you, man. That was very nice. Good luck being on the mend. Appreciate making us a part of your day. But yeah, we're here for you. And Rick, I'll challenge you. You say you don't have anything to say? 617-790-0928. Leave us a voicemail. Any of your sports takes you got, any questions you got, leave us. But awesome phone call.
Yeah, still appreciate you taking the time to call and say that you enjoyed the show and tuning in anyway without something to say. But look, Boston's got the headlines and all of our teams got something going on this week. So I'm sure we'll hopefully hear from Rick soon to talk about his thoughts.
All right, let's get to the next one. Next caller. This one's John from Dennis on the voicemail line. Here's John from Dennis.
Good morning. It's John out here in Dennis on the Cape. Well, the Celtics draft Hugo Gonzalez last night at 28. Can't really say I know who that is or if that pick really does it for me. I was kind of hoping to see the Celtics maybe move up in the draft and make a move for somebody more in the lottery pick area, but wanted to see if with the Bruins draft coming up tomorrow, do you think that maybe the Bruins have a little more surprise or just something more interesting in the tank on their end, or are we in for a long off season? Thanks.
Love that from John. Again, I get it. It's like you see that and you go, what? And he ends it with like that long off season.
Yeah.
It's going to be long no matter what because you're itching to get back to basketball. And it's going to be an offseason. We won't see it finished until the trade deadline in reality.
Right.
Because they can continue to work to get under the aprons, under the tax threshold, save on the tax penalties. And depending on how certain guys play, they can end up flipping them at the deadline. But yeah, if we talk offseason this summer, leading up until October when camp comes in for these teams, it's going to be long. But a piece like Hugo Gonzalez, that's a first step that free agency is going to hit. They created themselves space to pay and to spend. They need to create some more space, and that could be flipping an Anthony Simons, George Niang. Derek White and Jaylen Brown, calls are still coming in for them. They could be given that Godfather offer. I get it with the Hugo Gonzalez. Again, it's people want to see a name that they recognize, a name they know.
Comfort.
But you weren't going to get an Ace Bailey, a Dylan Harper, a Cooper Flagg, a Malawach, anyone like that. Rasheer Fleming's still out there, but that's a St. Joe's prospect. Like, they don't know him. This is the NBA. It's development. And when you got dudes, you're taking them top 3. The Celtics are lucky to be in a position. They're rarely picking top 3.
That's true. Something that just came to mind, appreciate the call, John, from Dennis via Cape Cod, who sounds like John Cena. I'm just going to throw that back out there.
Yeah, really deep voice.
Very, very deep voice. Maybe it's painful because if I recall what I thought I saw this morning, wasn't Wolf right before the Celtics pick?
Danny Wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another guy just like highly regarded as to like get him here, get him to Boston, make this make sense, do what you have to do to get that extra leap. So to think that he fell right before the Boston Celtics pick, there might be a part of you that thinks like, was there not a maneuver out there that we could have made so that we went with a name that we had confidence behind, that we had a little bit more of a scouting report on without having to dig too deep? So that could probably be adding to it a little bit.
Yeah, Daniel, I mean, he was really good for 6'11" at Michigan. Like, understands how to move the ball, needs to improve on his shooting too, but can be a ball handler and dictate from the nail on the floor. Like kind of like an Isaiah Hartenstein-esque role for what he did with the Thunder. Yeah, and that's someone that would have fit, especially with the front court depth and lack of it. Ryan Kalkbrenner, something they were expecting. That's what makes the NBA draft fun in a way, where we have these college guys, which we all watch, which you read about, and then out of nowhere, you're getting these international names. I mean, the real one of it all was Yang Henson taken 16th overall. This was a dude that was thought to be like 3rd round, maybe after the draft. He gets taken top 16. So there's those surprise names coming in. We'll get to another voicemail. This one, just anonymous. Angry Red Sox fan. All right, I like how we're labeling this. Remember, 617-790-0928. Here's an angry Red Sox fan.
Okay. Your last caller just said we should send Anthony back down. You guys said no. Well, guess what? You guys are wrong. You want me to tell you how you're wrong? Because you're contradicting yourself big time. I know you're not going to use this on air because you're going to make you guys look like a fool right here. Okay? You're sitting there saying how the Red Sox keep making mistakes and, you know, they're not doing the right job to get in first, you know, get the playoff spot. They're running themselves out of innings. So you want them to play better, right? You want them to get going? Well, guess what? Like the guy said, Anthony's not doing nothing. Nothing at all. It's time for him to go down. Do you want the Red Sox to start playing better? He needs to go down. Or do you want to play practice here? You want to just practice the rest of the year? You guys got to have to make up your mind here because you guys are preaching. You want the Sox to start playing better, you know. And then on one hand, and then on the other hand, you're sitting there saying, no, we're going to hurt his feelings. Well, guess what? Guess what? If it hurts his feelings, buddy, it hurts his feelings, well, too bad. This is a business, okay? It hurts our feelings to spend our money to go to that ballpark for all that damn money and watch them strike out. The whole team striking out. Excuse me, bleep that out. The whole team striking out. It's ridiculous. And then I hear you guys talking about Story. That's a good one. How Story is now playing like he should? Really? Because he got a couple hits last night? Okay,
love that all around. And if you think we're not going to play it, I'm not afraid of the smoke one bit, my friend.
Right.
617-790-0928. Just leave your rebuttal. Go ahead. You want him to go down and develop in AAA. The reason they're making these errors in the field is what is being taught down in AAA Worcester and throughout this farm system. I'd rather have him around Alex Cora, learning baseball from Alex Cora in the day-to-day than going down and being sent back down to AAA.
Where he was already putting up numbers. So
yes.
where is he being challenged? Where is he being challenged?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And he hasn't even hit 100 career at-bats. Marcelo Meyer, it's been up and down, but you see what he's doing. And now he's hitting against lefties. And then with the Trevor Story, he's back to hitting 275 average this month. He leads the team in RBI by 8. The next closest guy is 10 RBI. He has 18. He's the only one doing anything with runners in scoring position. The Red Sox just got swept. They just lost their 5th in a row. Who's the only one that had an RBI in that game? Trevor Story with 2 of them. The final score is 5-2. Yes, there's mistakes being made. This team is far from being a good baseball team consistently. It's a bullpen running out of gas, not having run support for the starting pitching, not having a consistent rotation outside of Crochet and Giolito and Bayo. I'm not sending Roman Anthony down because you need that exposure at the major league level, and it's walking the line with the now and the future. They're going to achieve it. I love the phone call. I'm all about the smoke because I'll come and respond. And I love that call. I love you watching, and I love you caring about the Red Sox, too.
Yeah, and we appreciate and understand the frustration, but at the end of the
100%.
day, you can't all put it on Roman Anthony because he's got to learn from the guys around him, which means the guys around him have to step up so that he can learn accordingly. So there's many factors here, and it's not about hurting his feelings. It's about protecting the fact of him mentally turning against himself, going back down to Oyster where he did what? Put up numbers.
Yeah.
So now he needs to stay up here, get challenged, and find his identity in the system in which he's going to be moving forward.
He wouldn't get his feelings hurt, but I'm not going to mess with his confidence. There's a big difference there. Shout out you guys leaving on the phone line. We'll take a quick break here on Boston's End of the Chat. When we're back, we'll talk what's trending around sports. Welcome back to Boston's End of the Chat in the Salem 5 Studios live in Watertown. All right, let's get into what's trending.
Your jersey just came out, Watertown.
Watertown. Red Sox swept by the Angels, 5-2. Final. The Angels get back to 500 on the year thanks to the Sox.
We helped them get back to 500. That's the part that I'm struggling with.
This is a Red Sox team where, all right, Garrett Crochet did Garrett Crochet things, and he was phenomenal. The bullpen is running into a wall and being gassed from how much they were used in May. We saw 14 strikeouts yesterday in the loss to Anaheim. And what was not just to prove it to avoid a sweep for the Red Sox, but a week where you have to prove it again to the front office. And that's what I was projecting. They come off 4 straight series wins. They drop a series against the Giants. It goes, okay, you have the Angels. They stink. You need to take 2 out of 3. Not just should, need to. Could even sweep them. And the opposite end happens. When Craig Breslow makes a Devers trade and says, look, I'm not waving the white flag. We want to make moves. We want to go in this season and get back to the postseason. The players still need to prove to the front office how hard to buy and what to buy. Getting swept like this, bad defense again, awful batting, bad bullpen, bad starting pitching outside of Crochet. It's tough to find a reason, to give this front office a reason to buy. And it's on the players.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is that some of the press conferences, some of the conversations with the reporters, you hear these players say that they're all kind of in a prove-it position at the time, you know, so knowing that and still getting up to bat and still kind of missing some of these opportunities, it's tough to watch, and it's very frustrating too. I mean, considering yesterday's game, you're looking at out of 12 batters, only 2 had minimal base production. 2 guys getting to a base out of 12 hitters is pretty outlandish. So it's just too lopsided. That's the frustrating part about all of this, and that's why you can't look at the scope and think, okay, maybe they're not waving the white flag, but this key word of consistency that we just keep tossing around is still kind of in the distance for this team. You get guys that are hot in the beginning of innings and then don't close out, or it flips vice versa, or we see such potential in a series and then it goes completely lopsided in another series, a series in which all of these guys should have been able to show a lot more potential and had more effective game.
And in a game where Richard Fitz was fine, going just 4 innings, but only allowing 2 earned runs, and then, okay, you trade Rafael Devers. Rob Refsnyder's your DH today. He goes 0 for 3, strikes out 3 times. And we've seen the numbers, too. Pull up a tweet. I saw Bob Nightingale tweeting this out. You think the Red Sox are missing Rafael Devers' bat? The Red Sox DH production since the Devers trade, batting average 182, OPS 543, home runs 1, and that's a lone extra base hit from your designated hitter. 3 RBI, 3 runs, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, and the Red Sox are now 3-6 since trading Rafael Devers. Look, it was an addition by subtraction within that clubhouse, and I get it. But again, everyone knew you're trading away a top 5 bat. Whatever player they would have gotten in return, if they got an MLB hitter in return of the trade, would not equate to Rafael Devers, and that's fine, but you need to get something. And when Craig Breslow, Alex Cora is going, hey, we'll have a rotating DH, a DH by committee, you know, we could really hone in on matchups. And then your DHs do that. A 543 OPS, that's terrible. Anything below 8 is bad for an OPS. 8's more of average. You would take a 7. Honestly, you would take a 7 right now. 543, that is someone that would get DFA'd if they were hitting that way. But that's what they're getting from the DH spot right now. All right, turning to the NHL. JJ Peterka, a name you were all over. You want to see the Bruins go out and get him, add a really skilled right winger, super young, and can get you 60, 70 points, play easily top 6, maybe even be on the first line. Traded to the Utah Mammoth. Now, first things first, congrats to J.J. Peterka for getting out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
But would have liked to see him get to Boston.
Yeah, I was hoping that he was going to get to Boston via either a three-way deal throughout the Islanders, because there was so much conversation about Bruins and Islanders chit-chatting. And look, I mentioned it before on Hockey Hub. I've seen it a time or two, these fancy little deals where you're going through another hockey club in order to attain your guy. I thought the connection German-wise between Peterka and Marco Sturm would have been something that could have been magic, but reality hit. He's heading to Utah, and it is still a great fit. You're talking about a young team, and I think I've said this plenty, especially if you see my Twitter account. I've been a big fan of what Minnesota Gophers have done and what Logan Cooley and Matthew Nyes and Snuggerud have been able to do in college and start to translate to the NHL. So now he gets to join Logan Cooley, who's a top-line center, and I feel like it's going to be a great spot for J.J. Peterka. I'm just very sad that it couldn't be finessed to Boston.
J.J. Peterka, Jack Eichel, Sam Reiner. We obviously know about Linus Ullmark. What are the Sabres doing? They haven't made the playoffs since 2011. And J.J. Peterka is another guy to build around, but they keep letting these guys walk. I mean, a guy like Jack Eichel was like, get me out of here, obviously.
Every player is screaming, get me out of here.
What are they doing?
I have no idea. They have no plan. When you have no plan, no identity, you're just going to sit there and waste the potential of player after player after player, and then they have to go find that redemption tour elsewhere. I mean, even Casey Middlestat via Buffalo Sabres at some point.
Yeah, at one point he was like a third-line center for them. He was good with the Avs, now with the Bruins, and he could be a top-9 contributor 1,000%.
Yeah.
He's a good NHL player.
They dismantle any opportunity they have of taking the next step with these skilled, very, very skilled guys. But like I said, Utah being a great fit for J.J. Peterka. I mean, he brings such a dynamic and versatility to whatever line they throw him on, but it's looking to be projected that he'll be on the second line. And your favorite thing about Peterka, even with the Buffalo Sabres, is the fact that this is a guy who second, third, fourth, fifth chances to make sure that puck stays in front of him and heads towards the net. You just love to watch those kind of players. Just absolute relentlessness.
The best thing going for the Sabres is that they are in Buffalo. Because they're a New York sports team, but you go to Buffalo, it's different than being in New York. If they were the Islanders doing this, if they were the Rangers, if they were the Bruins doing this, like teams that are in actual markets that care about their sports and will hold ownership accountable, like the Sabres doing this, and they have not made the playoffs since 2011. I was a junior in high school. I'm 47 years old now, Casey. I'm 47.
My God, 47.
They haven't made the playoffs in that long. Like, that is awful ownership. I feel bad for the coaches. I feel bad for the players. That's an organization. You say, just what's the plan? They need to have some semblance of a plan just to be respectful. But they draft well.
Yeah.
They had no talent. And then eventually they just ship them away. All right, so a team that does no talent and is accruing talent, the Boston Bruins, they revealed their new uniforms.
Ayo.
Look, when that logo came out, I was like, what? The yellow logo? I understood it from the 90s. Seeing the sweaters now, so the white sweaters will have the black spoked B, the classic Bruins. The black sweaters with the yellow spoked B, homage to the 90s. You know, the OTs, the Ray Borak, when Cam Neely, they were all sharing a line. They look clean. I love the yellow spoked B.
I'm not only such a big fan of this, but also it's giving PR 101. It's really close to Gilmore 2 coming out, the Gilmore jersey that we see on the
connect the dots,
course.
Connect the dots. I like it.
You know, so I'm getting some Gilmore vibes from it. Happy Gilmore, but I love it. I think it looks so clean, and I love the contrast of the brightness of the B on the black jersey. That was like the first thing that I popped out for me. So even though it has like some classic takes to it and appeal, love a little bit of PR 101. Not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying like the first thing I saw was Happy Gilmore when I saw the jersey, and then everything else in rotation.
The one critique I have, if we could pull that tweet back up, showing the yellow spoked B on the black sweater. I like the bear on the shoulder. It's the Centennial Bear. Give me the meth bear. Give me the meth bear logo on the sweater. That's what I would like on the Bruins sweaters. They bring another alternative.
See, I like the Centennial because I feel like there's just been so much rave about a new era. And I know that like
I get it
over and over again, but you got to kind of touch back. It's holding the something borrowed, something old in the mix of stepping into something new.
Just give me the meth bear logo on some jersey, some semblance somewhere. More than just like a one-off and a rarity. Give me on the shoulder patch, a little bit of a 90s yellow spoked B, a little bit of a meth bear sprinkled in on the top. That's all I want.
All right, I'm not going to work against you in that one.
We'll see.
I don't feel so strongly about the bear in sense of which it is, but for the sentimental value, having the Centennial Bear I thought was something cool.
No, it was cool. And then the spin on it, instead of obviously saying 100 years or having 100 on it, they put Bruins on the inside.
Yeah.
I like the look of these jerseys. And hey, a lot of McAvoy and Pasternak in the post hyping up the logo, hyping up the jerseys. Yeah, We'll see where the C is. Whose sweater has the C? It could be one of those two guys. It should be one of those two guys. We'll see. With Marco Sturm, player select, we'll see who gets the C. We'll take a break here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. When we're back, we'll get into Bruins draft talk. Now we'll really dive into it. Could it be Jake O'Brien, Roger McQueen, Porter Martone? Kasey will be breaking it down plenty. I'll be talking some puck too as well. Coming up after the break right here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. And hey, with the Bruins a draft day away, leave us a voicemail, 617-790-0928. What do you think of the Bruins jerseys? What do you want to see them do in the draft as well? 617-790-0928. Join the conversation yourselves. Join the chat. We talk with you, not at you, like our guy from the last hour pointed out. We'll take a quick break on Boston Has Entered the Chat. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, this time of the year we run sort of dual rooms with toggling back and forth with the guys that have been working an awful lot here to fill in any final gaps with the draft scenario. They feel really comfortable where they are in the picking the top 7. We've had a lot of discussions over the last month and a half of potential options with that pick. Are still exploring them as of today, probably just as of tomorrow as well. So we feel very comfortable with making a selection, but we're going to continue to see what might present between now and then.
All right, interesting from the Bruins general manager, Don Sweeney. Welcome back into Boston Has Entered the Chat. Bruins sitting with the 7th overall pick. A lot of needs, especially at the forward position, all over the ice for them. Don Sweeney saying, hey, we're looking at the prospects, but we could make some moves. Nothing's off the table. NHL draft begins Friday night. Kasey, let's start with the stick and pick situation for the Bruins.
Right.
At 7 overall, this is a deep center draft, which is perfect. We know the cream of the crop is a defenseman, but it's a deep center draft for the Bruins. You're sitting at 7. You're the person with the phone. You're making the call, making the pick. What are the prospects? Who are the prospects you're watching for, and who would you go with if you're the Bruins?
So I will say the mock drafts over the past 2 weeks have narrowed it down to 2 guys, Jake O'Brien and Porter Martone. And Porter Martone is a name that we started seeing quite a bit a couple months ago, kind of getting circulated in. Jake O'Brien has been like the loudest name thus far over the last week or so. I love both of these names. One of them screams more ready than the other to me in terms of like, are they going to utilize and develop this kid on the quicker end and make sure that he's a part of the Bruins lineup sooner rather than later? If that's the case, then they don't have to make any emergency breaks or big sells when it comes to free agency frenzy July 1 on Tuesday. So this is going to tell us how, let's just say, aggressive the Bruins
the direction
will be on July 1.
Who's more ready out of the two, Martone or O'Brien, in your opinion?
Porter Martone.
Yeah. I mean, O'Brien just turned 18 last month. No, excuse me, earlier this month. It's still June.
Exactly.
So he's going
That's
to be.
the part that throws you for a loop.
He's going to be
18.
18 when he's taking that next step in his progression. What about Martone says to you that he's ready for the NHL?
A number of things. First of all, you're talking about a guy who's 6'3" and 205. So Jake O'Brien hasn't even hit that 200-pound weight limit quite
170.
yet. 170. And again, just turned 18. So you're going to need to put weight on him. You're going to need to put strength on him. And we already have guys, Dean, and then Mason Lohrei joined Hockey Hub yesterday saying how he's getting stronger. So you don't want to bring in somebody that's part of something that needs to be developed. You're looking at Porter Martone that already has some strength to him, already has that size at 6'3". But more importantly, it's the NHL comparison to Corey Perry. And it's also his vision on the ice. You're talking about a guy that can slow down the game, which is funny because we just talked about that on the basketball end of things. But Porter Martone can slow things down. He's really good at finding, acknowledging, and kind of simulating the rhythm of his line mates. So somebody who has that ability to read you and set you up accordingly, that's brilliant as well, because you can bring in a number of skilled players, but if somebody can't feed them the puck, then there's this disconnect and you're just waiting to find that chemistry to come to life. So that's also a guy who I feel like chemistry comes in alignment with him very quickly also. And we talked about this with another guy beforehand, but this is somebody who loves to take on defenders. He loves to challenge them. He loves to toy with them, which also creates time and space. So he just has the ability to manipulate on both sides of the puck, which is very exciting for me. Again, coming in at 6'3", 205. Love the fact that he has a younger sister that wants to be a D1 player. It would be really sick to have Porter Martone here. And I believe his sister's name is Abby. If she ends up joining the Boston Fleet down the stretch, it would just be another thing that would make Boston that much more exciting.
Play some college hockey, BC, BU, Northeast Northeastern, Harvard, all the decent schools we got in the area,
All of
UConn,
it. All
throughout
of it.
Quinnipiac too. I like the Porter Martone when it's the more immediate impact. And exactly, to your point, where what they do at 7 overall could tell us a lot about what the outlook is for a timeline. Porter Martone, though, you list everything. That is someone that could go top 5. So it could be, okay, what's the pivot then if they're staying at 7? Roger McQueen, 6'5", 190. He's 19. Really big, skilled, great mover, good with the puck on his stick. And he's good in front of the net. I think that's an area that the Bruins really need to address.
Yeah.
Being in front of the net on both ends of the ice. And that's someone that could clear out space if a puck's in front of him, help out the goalie, and on the other end, know how to screen goalies, know how to get in the way, and be smart as a center. And that's a guy that's 19 years old. But again, we talk about the weight, we talk about the height. Jake O'Brien, 170, he's 6'2", so he has to fill out that frame.
Yeah.
I like the O'Brien call, though, because his vision, his playmaking, he is more of a creator as a center. When you talk about Martone, that's more of a scorer as a center and his ability to take defenders on one-on-one. What's good with the Bees is you wanted a top 3 pick for them for sure. If James Higgins was a Bruin, that was the dream.
I know.
If Michael Misa could become a Bruin, that was the dream. You wanted them top 3, top 2. They fall at 7, but this is the draft. If you're not going to get where you wanted to get a premier guy, then at least it's a deep center draft because there are the options on the back end. A Caleb Denoyer, another center that they could end up taking at 7.
Yeah, and that's another name that kind of just popped up. I believe Craig Button had him on the list for the Boston Bruins to pick up. But kind of circling back to Jake O'Brien, if that ends up being the route that the Boston Bruins take, then you're looking at a promising future down the stretch here. You're talking about a guy that's really keen on picking up assists, 66 points through 66 games, or 66 assists through 66 games. So somebody who also just has great vision with the setup and on the puck. They're concerned about his skating. I only point that out because that can be a different kind of development. There are some kids that they focus on skating all the way up until their teenage years, and then they finally pick up the stick and the puck. So it just takes a minute to figure out what that development will look like with his skating so that he can be even more effective pace-wise to set up for those assists.
Yeah.
Something else with Porter Martone is that now with a Marco Sturm at the helm for the Boston Bruins, stellar two-way winger, and that's kind of becoming a little bit more of an identity for guys that can play out on the wing. Somebody who can have both roles and contribute on both sides of the ice. A 200-foot game is another big identity to it. So you want to have IQ, you want to have less development than more development, and more importantly, that versatility to someone. I also love the fact that Martone is a captain on his team. You just see a lot of maturity and great character to who he is, how he's spoken for. His dad played in the OHL, had him in it being drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, actually bringing that back into the loop. So he kind of fits the bill and checks a lot of boxes in terms of when you have a guy like Marco Sturm that sees the potential in his players, that knows how to develop guys, get them ready, get them confident, and then this kid already has such a leadership head on him and arsenal of skills.
Yeah.
I feel like he'd be a really good plug and play.
He would be, and when you list all those attributes that Marco Sturm looks in, that also is someone, a Caleb Denoyer, that he falls into that. Good two-way player, more of a creator than a scorer, again at the center position, 6'1 plus, around 180, just 18, but that's someone that you want to talk about reliable. That's the word they use with a Denoyer. And for something that Marco Sturm preaches too, and it's a way of that's what they want to see from the Bees on the ice. Power play wasn't good enough. The overall product on the ice was not good enough.
Yeah.
But you bring in someone that's reliable, that understands how to move the puck through the neutral zone, is responsible with the puck, and can play on both ends to help out their goalie. You can pay a goaltender plenty of money. If you don't know how to help out your goaltender, especially defensively, it doesn't matter what you're paying them. If they keep getting tough looks, tough recovery, tough bounces coming back at them, a Denoyer or Martone, to your point, as we talk through these options, like a Jake O'Brien, that's a long-term play. There'll be other teams that could serve.
Yeah.
When a Denoyer, a Martone, maybe a Roger McQueen as well, that seems like a play for the Bruins, where it's someone that's closer to being NHL ready and also someone that can play and have an impact on both ends. It's tough to look at a Jake O'Brien, and again, only 170 pounds, very young. Looking at photos of him, not a speck of facial hair.
He's
not
a baby.
He has not hit that real growth spurt. Hit puberty, and then there's that second go when you're in your college years. Everyone grows, gets bigger, stronger. You gain a different sense of strength. He hasn't even hit that yet, though. So when that extra growth spurt comes in, who knows? From 6'2", 170, could end up being 6'5", 195, be a great player. But you don't want ifs right now if you're the Bruins.
That's the thing.
You want the high
fan
floor.
base, the fan base is kind of asking for more of a solidified answer versus a what if or a speak to potential. So if
there's a gamble and then there's an investment.
Exactly, and this will be a little bit more on the gamble side, or again, fitting that bright future, Bill, because something else when it comes to O'Brien, if you're not going to try to get him acclimated sooner rather than later, which that's not the case for this kind of guy. Power play. A lot of his points are coming off of special teams. So you're talking about somebody later down the stretch after more development can come and alleviate or be a key piece to your power play that you're looking to kind of emphasize on. And any progress that you know you're going to get from him down the stretch is still worthwhile. But this is what tells me that if they went with an O'Brien, they're going to have to get a bit of a heavy hitter in the free agency. We're going to have to see a little bit more out of the two guys that they brought in this previous season as well. So that's my only thing. It's going to be very telling to see what direction that they're going in. We're still calling it a retool, so I don't know if this makes sense if we're calling it a retool and there's potential out there that can come in a little bit more. You mentioned Denoyer. Something else with him, when you have these guys that are more creative than always trying to take the goal themselves, you look at a little bit too much of play on the puck. Something that's really nice about Neuer is that he's not always trying to get too many extra touches on the puck, which just can cause a massive amount of turnovers, especially with the pace of the game these days. And that's something that we saw a lot too. We saw guys that are really creative, but just holding on to the freaking puck too much. So something else in the development asset, if that's somebody that has the maturity to be okay, I don't need to get too fancy with this. I can be creative without taking too many touches on the puck. Then again, the maturity of everything can show you quicker development, a quicker fit for the Bruins down the stretch.
You think they're locked in on a center? Because even if you look at how their lines break down now, it could be Zacha, Elias Lindholm, Casey Middlestat. They're top 9 centers, right? They're top 3 centers in their top 9 skating. But there's a guy like a Pavel Zacha who could play the wing, but he plays so well next to Pastrnak. Elias Lindholm, Casey Middlestat, Marco Sturm is uncommitted to them as centers. I want to see them as players. I want to see them as players and go from there. You think same thing, Bruins are locked in on a center when it would come to that first-round pick? Or is it more forward, maybe some versatility, and it's kind of a fit on what it could be overall?
I personally would almost go a versatile winger of some sort. Because like you said, we saw, especially down the stretch of the season and during the toughest time when you're collecting loss after loss after loss, we saw a tremendous play out of Zacha. We saw Lindholm start to kind of come to life a bit more. And we know the potential that Casey Middlestat has, especially given the time with a team. He really started to take off with the Colorado Avalanche when given the ice time. You're talking about somebody that can make things happen in the middle of the ice. We saw glimmers of that over and over again. So giving time in the offseason, having a proper training camp, I think they're fine down the center. Plus, I'm a big believer in Fraser Minten and what he's going to be able to bring to this lineup eventually. So being able to kind of understand that the center group can do their job, a versatile winger is just going to help add value to everything. You need somebody who can consistently bring pace and push pucks forward and help set up those plays. Because any time that the puck got loose, there was just never that polish off. There was never that consistency outside of Pasta of just making sure that they're cleaning up the garbage and finding the back of the net.
I like the Fraser Minten mention. I also think of a Will Zellers. He'll play his college hockey at North Dakota State. He'll develop there. That's what I'm interested too. Whoever they go with, do they end up coming up to the AHL, say it to Jake O'Brien, or do you say, hey, go play American college hockey? You've been playing junior hockey, now make the leap towards playing American college hockey. Physically get better there and develop there. We'll see what the next steps are as well. That wraps it up for here on Boston's End of the Chat. Hey, make sure to get the latest up-to-date live Boston sports headlines. Always check out Boston's End of the Chat, 8 to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. Always catch Boston's End of the Chat on NESN Nation as well. It's every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. Right there.